This week on Full Credit to the Noise, brought to you by Parcel Protect. Oscar has a shocker in Baku. Max pounces and Lando, well, you know. And we fill every seat of the Supercars 2026 grid. Welcome to Full Credit to the Noise. Well, hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to Full Credit to the Noise. You can find this podcast on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at FCTTN Podcast. You can find me on Instagram, Twitter, Blue Sky, very lonely, and Facebook at former_legend. You can find the work across me on Twitter at AVL_motorsport. He's on Instagram at AVL.motorsport. He's the man who this week offered Jimmy Kimmel a job on Full Credit to the Noise. He has apologised for giving Gout a corky just before his semi-final. And tonight he's wearing a Jetstar pilot's uniform. Welcome to Speak Cafe's Andrew van Leeuwen.
I don't know what semi-final you're talking about there, former. There's only one final I'm thinking about this week, and that is the AFL Grand Final with the mighty Cats.
You know what I like about you Cats fans?
What's that,
You've
mate?
done the hard yards. You know what a real bad season feels like. Mate.
There's been the odd bad one.
Oh, yeah, it must be horrible. Jeez.
Yep.
Yeah, have a chat to Fremantle Dockers fans and get back to me. Yeah. Mate, what happened? I seen you you made your way back over to the East Coast again. What were you doing? Selling trucks or something, they reckon?
I wish I was selling model trucks. I'll tell you what, that's a heck of a business. I was at the Diecast Expo in Caroline Springs on the outskirts of Melbourne. Geez, that's a pretty generous description of where it is, to be perfectly honest. But fair old hike out of town. But I tell you what, a die-cast automobile fan will make the trek. There were so many people at this thing. I was there with our mates from Authentic Collectibles a few days, and man, some people get out to that thing. It's an amazing show. It really is. But the queue to buy a scale model truck and then get it signed by the owner of the transport company whose livery is on it. Out the door. And I'm not joking.
Lindsay Fox was there? Is that what you're saying?
It was one of the no. It was Membreys Transport. Right. I have never seen anything like it. It was it really was it was a very interesting few days. That collector's world is you would have loved it. Like you actually should come down the next time they do it. I think they do it every couple of years. You should come down. Their swap meet was so bizarre. It was just hotel rooms. People rent hotel rooms, and every flat surface they could find, they put a model car for sale on it. Like all over the bed, all through the balcony, all through the bathroom. It was absolutely. I've never seen anything like it. It was eye-opening and mind-blowing.
Any of the hotel rooms have upside-down pineapples on the door handles or anything like that?
What's that? What's that meant to mean? Explain that to me.
You can Google that after the show.
I'm definitely not going to do that, I can assure you. You know my rule.
I just heard you talking about floating in between hotel rooms. I thought there must have been some upside-down pineapples involved. Now, listen.
It definitely, there was something, I don't want to say seedy about it, because it was a weird experience. Literally a whole floor of this hotel was just people saying, come into my room and buy a model car. It was,
of course.
Incredible.
There's a bloke lying in someone's bathtub with his kidneys just separated. There'd be all sorts of stuff. Were these some of these blokes wearing just dressing gowns with nothing underneath and just a casual cag just dropping to the left every time the wind blew the right way? Or
there was a feeling that you didn't quite know what you were going to walk into, and every time all I actually walked into was people actually selling model cars. But it was something that took a bit of getting used to the first time I went for a bit of an explore on the swap meet level of the hotel.
Well, I probably watched one of the greatest qualifying sessions of Formula One history, AVL, and I know you would have watched it as well. On Saturday night...
I didn't actually. I was at the footy on Saturday night at the MCG and I missed it.
You absolutely missed an all-time qualifying session. It went for 2 hours. You probably heard all about it. There were 6 red flags. It was as windy as all get up. I just thought I'd break it down in point form. It's the best way I can sort of get over it. Alex Albon crashed into the inside of turn 1, which I've never seen a car do there since the cars have been going there. He did that in Q1. Hulkenberg crashed out on a hot lap in Q1. Franco Colapinto, knocked me down with a feather, wrecked another car in the final seconds of Q1. Behrman glanced the wall in Q2 and had to park it. Lewis Hamilton was the major casualty of Q2. He continued his poor form with a 12th place finish in qualifying. That's the 5th time this year he hasn't made Q3 in a Ferrari, AVL. That's got to be a little bit concerning. Charles Leclerc binned in turn 13 in Q3. But the biggest thing that happened, Oscar head on into turn 13 wall, putting him in 9th on the grid. That gave Norris a chance to capitalise, but he put in a very, very sloppy lap for 7th on the grid. Max got pole, Sainz was 2nd, Lawson cashed in and grabbed 3rd. Didn't Chapo just stop messaging me, Chapo? Jesus, I know, I get it, he's from New Zealand. Antonelli out-qualified the hall monitor, who had man flu. Yuki Tsunoda had his best result in a Red Bull. He scored 6th, and all the time I was thinking, we should have made our Discord debut tonight and did some live watch-alongs. Mate, it was an absolutely fascinating 2 hours. And I just getting 5,000 messages all the time, but I can't help but think that a couple of blokes, one in particular, absolutely bottled an opportunity.
Yeah. Well, I think we'll get onto this because I think you can say the same about the race, but I think there was a couple of bottlings that went hand in hand.
Well, we'll go to the race because Oscar didn't make turn 6. That's as far as he got. He didn't last a lap. Max absolutely hosed the field. The hall monitor ran 2nd. Carlos grabbed 3rd. Liam grabbed 5th. Lando, 7th, AVL. He pulled back 6 points to Oscar in the title race, back to 25 points. Don't forget, if Oscar didn't give that spot back at Monza, it'd be still 31 points at the moment. Just saying. A slow McLaren pit stop, but more so, a very poor restart under safety car by Lando killed what looked like a pretty easy 5th place. So for Oscar, things could have been way worse than they turned out. But I've never seen Oscar like that. It's a concern. I don't think it's a pattern because it takes more than one thing to be a pattern. But, geez, he had a shocker. He jumped the start. He missed the anti-stall. Then he walled it in the race after walling it on Saturday. Very un-Oscar-like.
Definitely. But at the end of the day, that was a massive let-off for Oscar. To have 3 big mistakes over the weekend, to have a non-score and only drop 6 points, it could still be a crucial 6 points, but in the scheme of things, that was a massive let-off and a massive missed opportunity for Lando Norris to really get back in the hunt for the title. You're right about, and I did think about that this morning, actually. What it does do, if this thing tightens up, it really will put the spotlight, it could put the spotlight back on Monza at some point. Because like you say, it could be that 6 point sort of swing around. At some point, suddenly that is, because what this does now is that the gap's 25 points now. So if Lando can outscore Oscar in Singapore, then he's back within a race win, and that's the difference between having the thing put to bed before you go to the last round or leaving it up to the absolute madness of a title decider, even if it's 24 points or 23 points or whatever. So it is critical in that way. But at the end of the day, these were Oscar Piastri's mistakes, and the fact that he only effectively dropped 6 points in the process of it is remarkable and remarkably lucky. I don't know if lucky's the word. What is like? Sorry, when you've taken yourself out of the rain, that's luck. So, because even if the McLaren wasn't the fastest car across the Baku weekend, Lando had to do better than 7th. I don't think there's any excuse for not being on or near the podium. He can say, I did all I could. The team can say, I did all I could. But he had to be on or near the podium, particularly with the fact that Oscar was on the back foot after qualifying. So I think both McLaren drivers effectively will be very disappointed with how the weekend played out. And the other thing is that, they're starting to let Max Verstappen back in the game, and it's a long shot, but you just don't want to be giving that guy a sniff. The last thing you want is him to be within a race win heading to Abu Dhabi for the last round. So, and, Max will have a bit of a sniff now, and he's got nothing to lose, and he'll know that, he'll know the pressure is on the McLaren drivers, and he'll make sure it stays on those guys. So, Singapore's a big test for Oscar now. He needs to bounce back, and he'll have to do it on a street circuit, which, he just crashed on a street circuit. So that kind of makes it, that adds to the pressure a little bit. He was outperformed by Lando in Singapore last year. So he needs to do what he did in places like China and Zandvoort this year and turn the tables on Lando compared to 2024. That would be a nice confidence boost. And he obviously needs to show us that there is no pattern here and the pressure isn't getting to him, that he can go out there and still be that kind of robotic Oscar Piastri that we just, we know that will often, even if he's not absolutely right there on pace. It's the fact that he just doesn't make these mistakes is what is how he goes about his business. So, yep, it was a very interesting outcome, and it has, either way, it's really added to the drama of the title fight heading to Singapore.
The one thing, well, there's two things I want to talk about. First of all, I want to talk about Lando's attitude in the press conferences after the qualifying and also after the race. When both times he was pushed on, did you just give away an opportunity? And both times he was almost arrogant in the way he answered it. And I know, how do you answer it? Do you say, yeah, probably I did, or whatever? I get that. I'm not stupid. But at the same time, go and have a look and just see the way he answers it and dismisses the question. I don't know whether that's a sports psychologist saying never admit you're wrong or what it is, but geez.
Well, the thing is that all year he's copped so much shit for admitting that he's wrong. Like being way too open about the fact that when he's made mistakes and that sort of stuff, and saying I'm not up to this, I'm not good enough for this. So maybe there has been some sort of, maybe he has seen a sports psychologist and they've said, yeah, you probably do need to be less open about, you know, the times when you feel like you didn't do a good enough job, because that's what people have talked about being a fault of his, is the fact that he does admit that he's wrong or that he's made mistakes too often.
Yeah, it's a good call. I hadn't thought of him that point.
So that was earlier in the year. That was all the talk. He's not strong enough to win the title because he doesn't have the arrogance to say, well, this is, you know, that I didn't get this wrong, whatever. But yeah, at the end of the day, I'm very sure that behind closed doors, he'll look back at it and go, that was a real opportunity to, you know, if not get 25 points back in this title fight, at least get 18, you know, or somewhere around that of vicinity.
That's
you know,
right.
There's just there's no way that car was only good enough for seventh place. I just don't believe that at all.
Yeah, I totally agree. And even when he was hunting up behind Yuki, I would have thought a bloke that was fighting for a world title might have just would have put something on the line there and just had a dig, because if he gets one spot, he probably gets two. And
yeah, I would understand it if they were still basically level on points. I think you go, man, these 6 points would be really handy. I'll just be happy to take them. But certainly the position he's in, like with the other guy out of the race, it's not a case of just, you know, where can I eke the little advantage here or there. He does need the big swing to come back his way, and that was the opportunity for it. And that may be his only opportunity for it, because again, Oscar doesn't do this all that often. So. That's what I think, you know, he needs to sit back and look at now and go, that there's a chance that was the chance. Yeah. And I just wasn't there to pick up the pieces.
Now, if you're a Formula One nerd, which a few of us are, that just like it, I recommend a YouTube channel, and they're nothing to do with us, AVL, but there's a guy from over your way, actually, who has a YouTube channel called Lower Lap Time. And he breaks down races and everything else on his channel. And last night, or this morning, he came up with this. He said there's something sus about Max's car and the way he grabs this one button on his steering wheel at odd times. I won't go too far into it because I actually can't break it down right now off the top of my head, but it's worth a look. Lower Lap Time on YouTube. Just go and have a look and see what you think, because it's a very interesting thing. And he said, for the life of me, I can't figure out what this button must do.
I'm pretty sure the FIA are probably slightly more across this than some bloke from Perth who thinks he's seen someone press a button.
Sometimes people, I mean, what was that thing that McLaren used to use when they, was it McLaren or Mercedes? The steering column that used to
DAS
open up.
Thing.
Yeah. I mean, that was only found out by people watching on TV, so...
Yeah, I'm not sure it was that simple as that's how these things get found out. But anyway, that's fine. People are allowed to have theories about things.
All right, let's go to the shift cut, because there's a bit of other news blowing around.
4, 3, 1.
Jack Doohan's hopes of an Alpine Formula One return appear to be over, with Flavio Briatore confirming only Franco Colapinto or Paul Aron are in the frame for the 26th seat. The Argentine has yet to score a point, although he's binned a few cars along the way, leaving Alpine with a headache over who should partner Gasly in 2026. Colapinto struggles. Briatore made it clear that the choice will be a straight fight between the 22-year-old and reserve driver Aaron. He said, Paul's a nice guy. This almost sounds Donald Trump, this next sentence. Paul is a very nice guy, a very quick driver as well. And I need to understand what is the best for the team, you know. He's into 22-year-olds. We know that for sure. The decision to end speculation that Alpine could look externally with names such as Lawson or Sonoda or even a standout Formula 2 rookie floated in recent months. He said, I don't see any other possibilities.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting that you wouldn't see any other possibilities out there in the whole wider world. But I think this really swings the pressure back on the current Red Bull drivers, or two of them to be sort of yeah. But look, at the end of the day, we've got you'd think Hadjar is safe. Max is locked in.
Yep.
And then you've got Yuki and Liam. And if Alpine isn't an external option for either of those guys, then they probably need to try and stay where they are to stay in Formula One or in some version of where they are, whether it's Yuki staying in the main team or whether he's replaced by Hadjar and he comes back to RB or whatever. Yeah, they really need to probably stay in that Red Bull system now if they want to stay in Formula One. They obviously both Liam and Yuki had strong results in Baku, but I think they're going to need a lot more of it to really show that. So I think that's the concerning part about all of this for them, is that if they're not on the shopping list for Alpine, then their option really is to just convince Red Bull they need to stay as part of that program.
What do you think Jack will do now?
I honestly don't know, but I think he has to look at options outside of Formula One.
Obviously,
as
yeah.
well.
I don't think there'll be much around. Someone said today, I think it might have been on the race, that the problem is there just isn't enough difference between Colapinto and Doohan to make Flavio think maybe I should give Doohan another go. He basically knows what he's got. He's got it in front of him as well.
I think that's probably a fairly pretty fair statement, and I guess that's why if I had to sort of really bet on it, I don't know heaps about Paul Laron, but I would sort of think that they, again, is it worth, we know there are some financial benefits that come with having Franco in the car. He's well backed and all that sort of stuff. Like, is he, do they feel he's that good that it's worth making the change? Or do you just go, well, look, we got this guy, he brings some money in the door. He has actually been fast on some occasions, even though it was with a different team in a different year. Let's just stick with him and sort of see what we kind of get. So, yeah, that's where if I was a betting man, I think if they're the two options, I think the guy that's in the car is going to be pretty hard to get rid of.
I think what you've said first off is the best thing is really only two options in all of the world. That's it, eh? Yeah, seems strange.
I do find that, and I find that a weird thing to say as well. As a guy who is supposedly a very sort of shrewd manager, you'd sort of go like, you should be saying, are we looking at everyone and anyone?
Yeah. I wonder how far away from the point of getting cost neutral Colapinto is at the moment, because, Jesus, there's been some cars come back on trucks. Supercars remains hopeful of having its 2026 calendar sorted before next month's Bathurst 1000. However, any number above 12 rounds relies on Supercars owner Race providing additional payments to teams as per the team's racing charter agreement. And the initial thought is that we may just stick to 13. The contracted payment is understood to sit at $63,000 per car for each extra event in 2026, leaving Race to find an extra $3 million to cover the 2 rounds, or convince the teams to take less, with 75% of teams needing to agree on any offer below the TRC terms. For the love of God, find it within yourselves to find some more rounds.
Yeah, well, I mean, the reality is that it is not impossible that we end up with 12 rounds next year, remembering that 2 are already locked in New Zealand, so that's 10 events in Australia, which would be a disaster. We spoke about this on the news pod, Stefan and I, late last week, but everyone has to find a way to make the 14 rounds happen, or the sport is shooting itself in the foot.
100%. I'm glad you said
And whether Supercars or the teams are in the wrong, it doesn't actually matter because everyone loses. Although I will say that the pressure is on Supercars because the nuance of trying to explain to the wider public that this was actually the team's fault is almost impossible to do. So the blame will fall back to the organisers ultimately.
Yep.
And they just need to find a way to ensure we get these 14 rounds, because even holding 13 means probably getting rid of QR, a very well attended event that was a real shot in the arm for the series. So to turn around and say, oh, well, it's not coming back next year would just be a really silly look.
I think you'd be insane, mate. And the thing is
I get you got to pay for it. I get that these things require
course.
money, but everyone has to find a way to do it, or we're really heading in the wrong direction.
I remember when, it was a long time ago, but Tony Cochran was heading the sport, and his aim was to go past ball sports, and he he was licking at their heels at some stages, and I'm telling you now, going back to 12 rounds, having a round in some stages every 6 weeks of the year is horrendous. A horrendous idea.
Yeah.
And if you want to mainstream this sport, if you want to find money, put more events on, get more people through the gates, get more people talking, get people like us having more things to talk about. Because otherwise, once every 4 weeks, every 6 weeks in some occasions, talking about supercars, people forget. They need to have it. They need to have it in some sort of regularity, and they need to have it more often. It's that simple. And like I said, I know that it costs money. I get all that, but you've got to spend some to make some sometimes. The Blanchard Racing team appears set for an exclusive customer relationship with Triple Eight next season following the Powerhouse squad's move to GM to Ford. They have a new chassis constructed by Erebus's James White that was delivered to them earlier in the year, and that looks like it's going to go over to Dick Johnson Racing, which switched to Erebus chassis, as we know. Rookie teammate to James Courtney, Aaron Cameron, is hopeful of staying, but word on the street is that there's no guarantees. The other whisper has Snowy River Caravans departing at the end of the year when James leaves as well, leaving a lot of things up in the air, AVL.
Yeah, I mean, on all that sort of front, we'll talk about the driver stuff in a minute, I think, anyway. But there is, for the Triple A deal, that's a good get for BRT. That's sort of, it's been billed as an exclusive element. The exclusive element to it, I think, is, I don't know if there was ever going to be too much competition from Ford in terms of Triple Eight customer deals, because it's not something I could see a Grove Racing or a Tickford or a DJR signing up for anyway. But, I think what BRT has lacked has been some direction. I think it feels it's found some since sort of the tying up with WAU, with that technical alliance, which obviously can't continue once Walkinshaws are running Toyotas. And this could be another step forward again, obviously, because Triple Eight are the best in the business. At the same time, Triple Eight customer deals are never a silver bullet. Like, it's not that easy either. Like, bolting the setup in doesn't send you from one end of the grid to the other. So getting the best out of that relationship will still depend a lot on the team and the drivers. But I certainly think that, for a team that is still trying to find its feet in the sport and is now facing the loss of that wealth of experience that is James Courtney, this is a smart move for BRT to make. And
just on a personal note, shame to see Snowy Rivers if they're leaving, because look good, those cars. Have done since they've come into the category. Different colour to everyone else, and just look the business, I reckon. They've always presented really well, so that's a shame in itself. Yeah,
and on that front, I think that's another reason why Blanchards would have loved James to stay for another year, and they really did their best to try and convince him. Like, there was a genuine effort to try and talk him into going again, because he still gets the job done. Like, he's still a very, very fast race car driver. Obviously, he is commercially strong as well. And he was kind of exactly what that team needed. So, they did try and keep him, but he's made his decision, and that has to be respected as well.
Just a couple of quick ones. Supercars has released its schedule for the Boost Mobile Gold Coast 500 later in October, which will feature laps by the Toyota GR Supra across all 3 days after its debut at the Bathurst 1000. Dave Reynolds appeared on Sunrise on Channel 7. He's got a purple car for Bathurst.
With grapes on the side of it.
I've got blue balls for Bathurst, same thing. But let's have a look at the silly season. I'm going to read you where we think the empty seats may be, and you tell me who you think will sit in them. So let's read the tea leaves here. Who will be sitting in them next year? The MSR car number 10, which is currently Nick Percat's seat. In 2026, who sits there, AVL?
Well, I think Jack LeBrock will be in one of the MSR seats. Now, whether it's 10 or 4, that I don't know, but I do think that JLB will be in one of them. Yep.
All right. I've got JLB in the other one, but for this one, I've got a feeling Nick still might be there. I don't know if that's
he's
been
under contract, technically.
Yeah. The other one I thought might get there is Bryce, perhaps.
Yep.
Depending on how things sort of play out. So the other one's the number 4, which is Cam Hill's seat. We know he's sort of heading off. I've got Jack LeBrock. Who have you got?
Well, I think Jack will be in one of them. So he's the only guy I've sort of got as a lock at as close to a lock as I'm sort of comfortable as saying at MSR next year.
Okay. Erebus number 9, which is Jack LeBrock's seat. In 2026, are we agreeing it's just Job Stewart unless something horrendous happens at Bathurst?
Yep, I think so.
All right. BJR, number 14, which is Bryce Fullwood's seat in 2026. I've got Cam Hill there.
That'll be Cam Hill.
Premier, number 31, James Golding's seat in 2026.
I think we'll see Jade No Jada in that seat.
Yep. This one, DJR, number 17, Will Davison's seat in 2026.
I think we'll see Will Davison in that seat.
I've got a sneaky feeling the whole whisper around Hazelwood might have legs, so I'll say Hazelwood. Team 18, number 20, it's obviously Dave's seat at the moment. Who have you got?
Dave Reynolds.
You've got Reynolds. All right, I'm still 50-50 on that one. BRT, number 7, James Courtney, seated 26. I've got Golding.
Yeah, it's James Golding.
Premier, Stanaway's seat, I've got Declan.
Yep, that is the chat. That'll be Declan.
This one, number 12, Jackson Evans' seat in 2026. Who sits there?
I still think it'll be Jackson at this stage.
I've got Jackson as well. And this one, final one, number 3, Aaron Cameron's seat at BRT.
Aaron Cameron.
I got a smoky here. Ryland Gray.
Go for it. Yep, it's certainly not impossible, but I think I think the team would like to continue with Aaron. It was just about making sure the right driver was in the other car, and I think someone with Golding's experience should fit that bill for them.
Aussies and Kiwis overseas. NASCAR, Shane Van Gisbergen qualified 10th, his best ever effort on an oval for the Trump Visa 350, and finished nowhere, literally, after a pile-up on lap 118 ended his hopes of a career-best oval finish in a race won by Randy Lover. And an IMSA, again, Chapo, I get it, he's Kiwi. It was a good day to be a Kiwi, says Chapo, as Earl Bamber won the Indianapolis Motor Speedway IMSA race on the Battle of the Bricks, I think it's called. He was teamed up with Jack Aiken and Frederick Vesti on the top step of the podium after winning the 6 hour in the number 31 Cadillac AVL. What were your best highlights from that race? I know you watched all of it.
Yeah, all of it. Every second of it. Didn't look away once.
All right, we'll come back after the break with some unders or overs.
Full credit to the noise.
If you're out there forklifting, bobcatting, jackhammering, backhoeing, trenching, digging, drilling, and persuading, you want to know that if anyone is thieving your stuff, that your insurance company will be timely with approving. So get on to Truck Assist, the insurance to keep on earning, with cover for the machines you're hauling and your work truck too. Go to truckassist.com.au, then get back to all that persuading. Limits and exclusions apply. Consider the PDS and TMD on the Truck Assist website.
Yes, welcome back. I thought we'd play a game of unders or overs. I know it's your favourite, AVL, I think, because you don't have to think too hard.
Yeah, no, it's great. It's better than forward headline, I'll tell you that right now.
I can tell. Under or over 1.5, the number of drivers in Formula One right now that won't be on the grid in 26.
I've gone with under, because I don't think it's more than one.
Yeah.
I think it's I think either Yuki or Liam could end up in strife unless they can really keep that Baku form.
Yeah, it seems Colapinto will probably hang on, which...
well, that's what I'm kind of thinking.
Reasons best known to themselves. I'll say under as well. But yeah, it's right on the cusp there. Oscar will finish over or under 0.5 of a point in front of Lando.
Over. I think all he needs to do is avoid another Baku, and it should still be a fairly comfortable win.
I'm not going to lie, I'm starting to clench up a little bit, but I'm going to say over for the time being. Over or under 400.5 times George Russell mentioned he was crook on the weekend. I mean, fair dinkum. Every time he was on the radio, he's in an interview. Oh, I'm pretty sick. Yeah, we get it, mate.
I only really watched the race from the weekend, but I think I know enough about George to say overs.
I reckon he would have been one of those sick kids at school too that was always had a hanky hanging out his pocket or something. He looks like one of those guys. Over or under 0.5, the number of podiums in 2025 for Lewis Hamilton.
Oh, it's tough. I'm losing faith. I actually just have no faith in that Ferrari. Like even on the weekend, on a weird weekend where you go, hey, maybe this is our chance. You know, you've got a Williams on the front row on the podium, like a Racing Bulls on the second row.
Yeah.
I'll say over, given it's just one sort of weekend. And, maybe somewhere like Vegas, Ferrari are often strong there where they just get it right and those cars are really quick. But, man, not with much confidence because it's not even a Lewis thing. It's just I just have no faith in that team to actually and that car to actually do anything decent.
Yeah, I've got it at unders. I don't think he will now. I think the car and him, I think it's 50-50. Sometimes it's the car, sometimes it's him, but it's just not working, and I don't
Well, I haven't seen Leclerc bashing down the podium too often this year, to be perfectly honest.
See, they asked Lewis to hand back 8th to Charles. It's like, would you bother, really? Like, what are we running
when the drivers don't even care when something like it sort of went wrong. It went wrong in some way, and Leclerc ended up ninth, that he just didn't seem to care at all.
They reckon Lewis went from like 330 k's down to 160 k's, and Charles slowed down as well. As if to say, oh, mate, I don't really give a shit. With 7 GPs left, McLaren will win over or under 4.5 of them.
I'm going to say over because I think that they should. They should. And Vegas should be the only real danger. That's the sort of track that does throw up the weirdness. The rest of them, the McLaren should be the fastest car there. And you've got 2 drivers fighting for a world championship, which should be pretty motivating. If that doesn't get you up and about, I don't really know what does.
Yeah, well, you can't have a watch last weekend again and get back to me. I'm going to say under. I feel like Red Bull's might have 3 in them. Will Power will finish over or under 0.5 of a spot above Scott McLaughlin in the 2026 IndyCar Championship in his new team.
I'll say over because that Kirkwood fella did pretty good for Andretti this year, right? Like, I think that the Andretti cars are not bad, and I reckon a certain W Power will be pretty motivated to get out there and make a point. So I'm going to back William in here.
Yeah, I'm going to say the same. I think he will finish in front. There's nothing like him when he's got his head down and his bum up. He goes. The 2024 Repco Bathurst 1000 had a 4-day crowd figure of 193,000 race fans. Under or over 194K for 2025.
Well, based on crowd figures of 47,000 for the Bend, you can actually make this thing go whatever direction you want it to, I reckon. So, yeah, you could make any old case here. But I'll be optimistic and say over.
I'll say over because we'll never know anyway. So,
well, exactly, that's exactly right.
Finally, under or over 0.5, the number of planes who will land on Mountain Straight at Bathurst this year.
Oh, surely that's an under. Surely.
Wasn't there a plane crash at a car race during the weekend as well?
There was, yes. Yeah. Brought back some great memories of some fairly insane website numbers.
I went with something else on that under or over, but I had to change it because I had to go and look up for a court case. I couldn't find out what the outcome was from last year's Bathurst, so I thought I won't put that in. All right.
I think that was a very smart move.
Off air, I want to find out what happened. We'll come back after a break and do some credit or shred it, send a letter.
Full credit to the noise.
Winter could spell bad news for your vehicle's battery. Here are 3 maintenance tips from the battery gurus at R&J Batteries. 1. Avoid frequent short trips to keep your battery at a healthy state of charge. 2. Keep the battery terminals clean and corrosion-free. 3. Avoid running your accessories with the engine off for too long. If your battery is 3 years or older, it might be time to get it tested for free at your local R&J Batteries. R&J Batteries, power like nothing else.
Yes, welcome back to Rear of Grid. Now, before I get into the credit or shred, it's AVL. Very exciting.
Yep.
What's happening with this membership?
So, we do have some exciting news. We do have a new membership program for Full Credit to the Noise. It's essentially an evolution of Fast Deli. It's got a heap of the shared features, such as the insider column and entry to the $500 Visa cash card giveaway each and every month. Huge discounts on Fast Deli and Full Credit merch. And we do have some awesome Full Credit merch coming up. Yeah, there's some good stuff coming. Oh. So we are going to get the members-only Discord up and going very soon, so you'll be able to chat with us about all manner of things in there. It's a flat membership fee, $12.50 a month. Here's a couple of reasons to sign up ASAP. Firstly, new members will get a premium exclusive Full Credit trucker cap worth $45 for absolutely nothing. And secondly, joining gives you an automatic entry into the Gold Coast 500 giveaway. That is the chance to win flights and accommodation for 2 to the GC 500, or if you don't fancy doing that, which I can't imagine anyone not wanting to do that, but if you didn't, you can have $5,000 cash instead. So entries for the giveaway close at midnight on this Thursday, and the winner will be told on Friday. So if you want a chance to win that, you've got to sign up and become a full creditor this week before midnight Thursday night. Do that at fcttn.com. And we're also going to have a video version of the pod at that website each week, which is available for free, even if you're not a member as well. So, but definitely sign up because, particularly with that Discord, I reckon we're going to have some fun with that pretty soon.
Have you seen who's playing at the Gold Coast? Groove Armada.
Oh, there you go.
Mate, I tell you what, a young former legend. He'll be back up there. His denim wash, stone wash denim, just absolutely slaying them. Just cut one from the herd, and you'd imagine.
I got to see this.
All right, this is credit or shred it. So I'm going to make a statement. You just say whether you agree or disagree with a credit or a shred it. We'll revisit after. Baku is the best street circuit on the F1 calendar.
Credit.
Todd Hazelwood should enjoy TA2 and co-driving and forget the stress of a full-time supercar drive.
Shred it.
With a caveat. There are only 5 actual cars that can win Bathurst.
Shred it.
Credit. There is no driver who gets better bang for buck for his sponsors than Dave Reynolds.
I'll say credit.
I'll say credit if we take Craig Lowndes out of it.
Yeah.
Saturday qualifying at Baku showed that in big moments, Lando is mentally fragile.
I'll say credit.
McLaren needs to prioritise Piastri or risk a Verstappen steam train to steal the title.
Shred it.
I'd like to say credit, but yeah, we'll go back to that. Baku, the best street track. I think that's. I love the look of the place, ABL.
Yeah, to me, it's between that and Jeddah, but Baku gets it based on the onboards from the pit entry alone. It's so cool. Like, they hammer into that pit entry. It is amazing.
Yeah. You know the lines that follow the entry into the pit entry, and it's kind of like a chicane, but it's just painted lines on the track.
Yeah.
But there is a gap between the wall and those painted lines. Can you drive through that with all 4 wheels on the inside of where the painted line is?
I don't think so.
Because Lando did.
Oh, well, there you go.
Todd Hazelwood should enjoy TA2 and forget supercars.
No, I mean, anyone who fancies himself as a professional race car driver should never have that attitude. At the same time, I think Todd should be very picky about a full-time return if it ever comes along. Like, I certainly, you just don't take any old drive. I could understand you wouldn't want to go back to the grind of being, towards the back of the grid.
Yep.
I think Richie Stanaway probably falls into that group to some extent. I'm sure there are times where he's wondered if he should have just stayed at Triple Eight being a co-driver as opposed to sort of going through some of the headaches that he's gone through since going back full-time. But at the same time, if I was Todd, would I be trying to turn this career revival into a front-running full-time seat? Yes, I think you have to have that attitude.
Yeah, I'm like you. If it's a strong seat, yes, but don't go back and do...
No, I definitely don't think he should just take any old ride. I think that you would... But I also don't know that just turning down everything because this is easy is... I don't know that, you're not the competitive athlete that you need to be anyway, if that's your attitude.
5 actual cars can win Bathurst. So let's go through them. Red Bull 2.
Yeah.
Monster 1. Shell 1.
Yep.
Trying to think of another one.
I think you could make a case.
I was framing a market. I'm trying to do them in order.
I think you could make a case for a Grove race. A lot of this depends on the competitiveness of the Mustang, right? So to me, that's the big question mark. And the thing about race meetings normally is that this is all, I think you have to work off, whether you think a team and driver is up to doing the job. Because once you get there and they start going around the track, we'll probably be lucky to have 5 cars that are actually in contention to win by the time we get to qualifying on Friday, Arvo. So, I think you could make a case for the 2 AAA cars and at least one from 4 other teams, and that's Groves, Walkinshaws, DJR, and Tickford, and potentially 2 from a couple of those teams as well. So I think there are more than 5 cars in contention on the basis that the Mustang is competitive.
Yeah, I think that's the caveat, right?
Saturday
there's no better driver to get bang for buck for his sponsors than Reynolds. I think that's about right at the moment. Not gonna
Yeah,
lie.
so I guess the framing of the question is a little tricky because bang for your buck depends on what the sponsor is spending. But Dave is, and that's where maybe the Lowndes comparison falls over because I don't think you get much for cheap or free out of the Lowndes camp, which is absolutely fair enough. He's trying to leverage being not just being the great race car driver, but one of the great personalities and one of the guys who puts the time and effort in with the fans and also with sponsors. So I don't mean that as any sort of criticism. That's just what he does. And Dave's very good at it as well. And that's what makes him an attractive prospect to a team still in this latter part of his career. Yep. And even at a time where his performances and results aren't always there, when he's having a tough season like he is, he's still in that conversation because he does the off-track stuff so well.
Mentally fragile after qualifying Lando.
Yeah, Saturday. It's a harsh take. It's a harsh take to go with the credit, but I think if you put Max in exactly the same position Lando was in the 100%. Same car and in the same, facing the same need to make points back up, he doesn't let the opportunity slip. He capitalises.
Can you imagine saying to Lando at the start of qualifying, hey, just so you know, once you get to Q3, Oscar's not going to put a time on the board.
Yeah, you got to crack it really shaking this thing up.
There'd be nothing left on the, he slapped the wall, but that was... the only place you probably don't want to slap the wall was where he was. But, yeah.
Well, even in the race, I just feel like you put Max in that car and you come over the radio on lap 1 and say, mate, Oscar's out of this race. This is your chance to pull 25 points back on him.
Correct.
Just watch him go. And you just don't see. It is amazing in a year where Max's run of world championships is probably going to come to an end. He's actually increased his legacy by not winning the title.
It's a great point. Because I was thinking that the other day and I was thinking, I know this is a fanciful what-if world, but if he was in that McLaren right now, it's hard to imagine. You just wouldn't know which way he went. They'd be lost.
No, I think he beats both the current McLaren drivers quite comfortably. And that's a harsh take. And I'll never fall in that trap of saying that neither would be not a deserving world champion or whatever.
No, that's not the point.
But at the end of the day, I certainly think that he would. Yeah, I think he'd go a lot better. I think he would destroy either of the current McLaren drivers in the exact same hardware. I think Oscar would be a sterner test just because parking this whole weekend aside, I think he is more resilient in terms of dealing with the pressures and that sort of stuff. But I think Max's speed would be overwhelming for both of them.
Do you know what I reckon? I wonder whether if Mark Webber had the opportunity to race in where Oscar is right now against Lando in an absolute weapon, a rocket, I actually think Webber would have looked a lot better than probably we all remember him to be. And don't get me wrong, he's a very, very good race car driver. But
yeah,
I reckon I still
don't know his ceiling was quite that high.
Yeah, I don't know. Finally, McLaren needs to prioritise Piastri. This is written by an Australian. Or risk of a Verstappen steam train to steal the title.
That's like saying,
when do you think they have to
throw the red flag when you've just gone fastest in a session? Like red flag it now. I think that's the margin back to Max is still at a point that it won't come down to the order of the McLaren drivers finishing the race. Like it will come down to whether they finish the race or not, but not the order in which they finish it. He's not going to come down and just they're squabbling over second and third too much, and he just claws back enough points with enough wins. I don't see that. Max needs more of these either non-scoring or really low-scoring weekends for both McLaren drivers. So it's just up to the drivers to avoid that, So nothing the team could have done would have stopped them both underperforming in Baku. At the end of the day, it came down to driver errors on Saturday that obviously put them both on the back foot, and then more errors from particularly from Oscar on the Sunday, where it was less about errors for Norris and more about just not capitalising. And yes, he had the slow stop and this and that, but again, that second and a bit or whatever in a car that fast in a pit stop just shouldn't have really mattered. It just shouldn't have really mattered. So I think only the McLaren drivers can let Max back into the title fight, not the team. So I think the team's attitude to whether they favour one or the other actually won't. That can't win the title for Max.
Maybe that's how Yuki can seal his drive for next year, just becoming an absolute menace. Yeah, I agree with all that, mate. I think it was. I've heard today that if if Max wins every race this year and Oscar runs second every race, it won't matter. It comes down to, like you said, those weeks where they don't get, somehow they run at the back end of the top 10 or don't score a point. That's when they'll start panicking. But let's say there's 3 rounds to go and Max is within 30 points. And he's level with Lando. Do they
still need a
saying,
lot to go his way between now and then? Oh, in terms of whether they should focus on a driver.
Correct.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, maybe you start to talk about it there. I don't think McLaren would. I think they have literally made too much of this fairness thing that they've really put them. This is again where they've just put themselves in this incredibly difficult situation.
It's insane, mate. It's insane. It's so stupid.
Because flipping that switch is hard. At the same time, they did get to a point last season where they did say to Oscar, "You're now supporting Lando in the last few rounds," when he still had that sort of outside shot at running down Max. So yeah, we'll see. But a fair bit has to happen to get to that kind of point on both fronts.
It's going to rain in Brazil, so you know that. So Max wins there. So there's one race win. So our letter of the week comes from Adam Logan, and he asks, when learning a new style of driving like SVG is to going to the ovals, is improvement linear or gradual? Or is it a series of light bulb moments that result in big steps in performance? Obviously interested in whether SVG will go from 30th to 25th to 20th, etc., or whether it will go from 30th to 10th. I get that 10th to 1st is probably as much of improvement as 30th to 10th. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I honestly don't understand enough about the art of stock car racing on ovals to have that level of insight as to what you have to improve to kind of make big steps or small steps or whether, I guess their margins are so tight, it's always small steps in a way, because the lap time is so short and all that sort of stuff. But it's obviously for reasons I don't fully understand, much tougher. It's a much tougher assignment getting up to speed in stock car racing on ovals than it is in IndyCar, because we see guys come out of F1 or we see drivers, that sort of start in road racing and make the transition to chase the Indy dream. Yep. Or someone like Scotty Mack, who just comes out of touring cars, for God's sakes. And the transition is possible within a pretty reasonable time frame. But there's just absolutely no history of anyone just coming along and making the switch to stock car racing on ovals and really getting it right at all. So there's obviously just something about it that I certainly don't understand that makes that switch far more. It's not just about the nature of the circuit, because, guys can get their head around it in IndyCar.
I wonder whether it's better off coming from a gun from a motor racing series like Supercars, or whether someone at that same level, like the SVG level of, say, sprint cars, would go to NASCAR and make a better hash of it straight away or sooner.
Could be. Again, I don't really know. Like I said, I don't think it's just about the ovals. It must be about the way the car moves and this and that, and so the art of that pack racing and stuff that is difficult to get used to, because when it comes to open wheelers, it doesn't seem like, what Scotty Mack was on pole at one of those oval races, like in his first couple of races, remember, when he started his first season in IndyCar. So it's just easier, and that's not taking it away from what Scotty did. I still think it's amazing. I think the most amazing thing about Scotty Mack is that he was never been an open wheel driver. Like he did a very small amount of state level Formula Ford, and that was it. So to me, that's
don't be hard on yourself.
But it was in Perth as well. But that is what makes his transition mind blowing to me. It's just how far removed his whole racing life was until he decided to hop in one of the top open wheel series in the world.
Yeah. All right. That'll about do us for this episode of Full Credit to the Noise. Don't forget you can find the show on all the socials at FCTTN Podcast. You read AVL's excellent work at speedcafe.com, where they break all the big news first in motorsport. Until next time, I've been Former Legend. He's been AVL. This has been Full Credit to the Noise, and we'll see you at the top of Mount Panorama on Sunday, because I've got to go and bury a few boxes. AVL.
Full Credit to the Noise.